Well, thank you for joining. I'm Nancy. I'm with PeopleTech as our channel manager. Just a few housekeeping rules today. This recording will be available after the webinar and on our website. We will send out the presentation as well afterwards. And then if you have any questions throughout the session, please do type it in the question and answers portion, and we will have a section at the end where we will answer them. But during the session, please do type in your questions and we'll get to it at the end. So today we have three speakers: Jegadesh Suthar, a senior solutions architect with AWS; Jegadesh Sankar, our director of cloud and infrastructure at PeopleTech; and Abdel AbouFariss, our senior cloud architect with PeopleTech. And here is Jegadesh to go over our agenda.
Excellent. Thanks, Nancy. Hey guys, thank you everyone for joining. So we got kind of a mixed kind of crowd. So joining from, we have people who are architects, people from the development background, and we got a lot of decision makers and CXOs on the call today. So the agenda is going to be talking about how you can modernize your .NET application with AWS. We are going to be covering sections both which will be applicable for the CXOs as well as for the decision makers, and we'll also be covering a little bit more in technical. So the first point that we have here is to talk about our company. It's not to spend a lot of time there, but just to give a quick introduction about PeopleTech, and then we'll move on and we'll talk about what are the options that you have to modernize your .NET applications with AWS. We'll quickly look at some of those tools and services which will help you accelerate your migration journey. And we'll get into a demo, and then we'll actually show you how to containerize your application. And that's, yes, we are going to show you real quick on how easy it is to containerize your applications with AWS. So stay tuned for that. My colleague Abdel would kind of chime in, and he would be explaining a little bit more in detail on that side. And once we're done with that, we will bring Jegadesh, who is for the AWS Solution Architect, and he will talk about why we should consider AWS as a cloud platform to modernize your .NET applications. And then we'll talk through some of those success stories, how this was done successfully for other customers. And then we'll also talk about how PeopleTech can, as an AWS partner, can help you guys with your acceleration journey. And since you guys are joining us and staying throughout the call, we'll also talk about some of those exciting programs that we are offering for just the participants for this webinar. So please stay tuned until end of the session, and we'll talk about the specific programs on how we can help you to accelerate your journey. And of course, we'll also take your question and answer towards the end, so feel free to start putting in questions. So real quick, I've been with PeopleTech for about 8 years now. And in fact, I came through a company called Firesoft, which was acquired by PeopleTech. And one of my goals is to help customers modernize their data center and their applications. And that's what pretty much I do. Let's take a quick look at who we are as a company. We are about 2,000 plus employees, a very strong company. And we have excellent case studies and long-lasting relationship with Fortune 500 customers. In fact, 70% of our business comes from Fortune 50 companies. And we are also one of those partners who built the HMI interface, which is the human machine interface, the whole digital dashboard that runs on GM cars. So that's currently being built, and it's rolled out to about 14 million cars on the road right now. So we are mostly a tech-focused company. We focus heavily on the technology area and the transformational journeys. So that's what we do. And we are a strategic partner for AWS, and we are a partner with Microsoft and all the other major cloud service providers as well. Here's a quick journey on how we have grown as a company. We are Seattle based. We are founded in the year 2006. And since the inception, we have been growing mostly with mergers and acquisitions and rapidly adding customers. In fact, some of our customers are really staying with us for more than 10 to 15 years. And in 2015, we acquired a company called Firesoft, which is specialized more on the data center modernization and application migrations to cloud. And we did large-scale migrations for Expedia and Waters Clouvers. Those are some of those flagship customers where we did a whole application modernization success story and case studies with them. And we also reached AWS Advanced Consulting Partner in the year 2018. And since then, we have been focused heavily on the AWS platform and helping customers move to AWS platform as well. So just a quick snapshot of our customer view. As you can see, there's a broader set of customers here. So across multiple verticals, starting from Amazon and Microsoft themselves, and we have several customers on the healthcare side, as well as the education, as well as on the government side of things. So we are not vertical based, we are a technology company, and that's what pretty much we do. And one of the key value proposition that we bring in is we work closely with both Amazon and AWS. So in fact, we have our engineers working with Amazon to develop some of those cloud platforms that Amazon and Microsoft are currently building. So we really bring in all that knowledge to our service delivery to help our customers with their migration journey. So that's a little bit about who we are in terms of the company. Now let's quickly talk through the .NET modernization journey, and let's get to the core meat of this webinar. Excellent. So let's talk about modernizing your legacy application built on .NET. And of course, we all know there are multiple options and opportunities available for us to modernize the applications. So if we look at the slide, we talk about the top layer is your application layer, and the bottom one is your database layer. So let's talk about what are the options available. Of course, we can do a rehost of applications, where you would convert your existing .NET application and you'll take your database on-prem. It could be either running on on-prem physical or your VMs, and we can move them to the cloud and run it on an AWS EC2 instance. So that's a quick and easy way of moving things to cloud, but we all know that's not optimal for the business benefit, although some of the applications in your environment might fall into this specific category. So there is no code change involved. You're just lifting your application from on-prem and you're rehosting them onto the cloud. Now, most of the customers at their initial journey, they would consider doing a rehost as a quick win scenario, but we will kind of go to the next slide and talk about why this may not be a right idea to move all your applications to cloud by just rehosting. The second option that you do have is to re-platform your application, where you are changing the underlying compute environment, where you move it to more of a container-based approach. And we'll be talking a little bit more in detail and hands-on lab on how to do containers a little bit later. But that's an opportunity that you would have to migrate your applications and still take advantage of the cloud platform by containerizing your applications. So here again, there is no code changes involved. You're simply porting your application to the cloud, and you're kind of removing the dependencies on your underlying core infrastructure. And on the database side, you can always move to a managed database like a SQL Server, Amazon RDS for SQL Server. So that's an option that you do have to move your databases to AWS. Now, the last option is where we come in and we talk about refactoring your application. So there is definitely a lot of advantages that you would get when you refactor your application. Just to name a few, you will definitely have a lot of options to for license freedom and porting your codes to different platforms. It is cross-platform support is something which you'll definitely get when you do refactor your application. And when we say refactor, we are talking about moving your .NET applications to .NET Core. So that's what we are talking about. So basically, you move your on-prem to cloud. It's basically to VMs, or you have replatform where you move your VMs to containers, or you can move directly your .NET Core to a .NET Core applications. So that's something which you would take significant advantage. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And to move on, we also talk about the database side of things. When you move to refactoring, so basically you're converting your SQL instances to Aurora or DynamoDB. So that's your database migration options when you modernize your applications. Now, let's quickly move on to the next slide. And let's talk about how that .NET modernization journey looks like. So on this slide, on the x-axis, we have efforts, and then on y, we have the value. So when you basically take your application and move it on to either an EC2 instance on AWS, you're actually moving it quickly, but you don't get a lot of value. But when you actually move them to containers on EC2 instances, then of course, there are certain efforts involved, and you would go high in the value chain. But you will really start seeing more value when you actually do containers. And then once you reach the container stage, then you do have option to change your .NET framework to .NET Core. So that's where you are actually removing the dependencies on your compute, and you can definitely go cross-platform, and you can now run your .NET Core on your Linux containers. So that gives definitely a lot of flexibility for customers to move their code, and you're not dependent on just the platform itself. Now, the next thing that we see most commonly customers do is to convert their monolithic applications to microservices. This is something which would definitely drive a lot of business value, but when you do convert your monolithics to microservices, there are a lot of efforts involved to understand the business logic for your applications, segregate those business logics, and then convert them to monoliths. So that's definitely takes a lot of time, but you would truly start seeing more value when you convert applications to monoliths. So monoliths to microservices. Now, the higher up value chain, you definitely got .NET Core applications. You can truly remove all your dependencies on the compute, and you can go for serverless with AWS Lambda. So that's something which you do have options, and it is supported as well. So we definitely want all our applications to be running on .NET Core with AWS Lambda, but this is a journey, right? So it's not that we take an application and move directly to .NET Core with AWS Lambda. It is a journey that a customer goes through, and this journey also depends on what kind of application that you're currently running on your environment, and you really need to see what approach would work out for a specific applications. Now let me move on, and let me quickly show you some of those decision trees that you will want to consider when you migrate your .NET application. The first option is, of course, rehost. You can basically take your .NET applications, evaluate and see, is this an app which you wanted to run it on VM or containers? If this is not suitable for a containers, then you can definitely take them and see if you want that to be fully managed by yourself, or you want AWS to be managing it. If you want every control on yourself, then you can put it directly on an Amazon EC2 instance and start managing it just like how we are currently doing it on-prem. But if you want Amazon to manage it, then you can put it on Elastic Beanstalk. Now let's quickly move through and look at the other side of track. What are the options available on the containers? Now this slide talks about both rehosting and replatform in the same slide. We already covered the rehosting option. Now let's look at the journey for containers. Now, when you want to do containers, you do have a couple of options. Either consider, are you going to run your .NET framework as in on the cloud, or are you going to convert them to .NET Core? If you wanted to directly use .NET framework, then you can obviously put it on Kubernetes, and you can either run it on Kubernetes managed Windows container, or you can directly put it on Amazon Elastic Cloud Services, and you can put it on, you can host that on Windows containers. So that's an option available for you. But if you do want to convert them to .NET Core, then that's where you would have platform independent. Either you can go for a Linux or a Windows platform. So let's go through and talk about how we can do refactor for your application. Now, on this specific demo, we'll be covering more on this side of the section where we will show you how to re-platform and how to containerize your apps. But let's see how the refactor journey looks like. Now, if you do decide that as part of your refactoring, you wanted to move it to Linux, then you do have option to target for serverless functionality. So basically, you can leverage AWS Lambda and achieve serverless functionality. Or if you wanted to do serverless containers, then you can obviously put it on Kubernetes and leverage AWS Fargate with EKS and manage Linux container. Or you can put it on AWS Fargate with ECS, and you can put it on Linux container. So those are some of those options available for refactoring. As we said, not all these options might be suitable for your applications. You really need to take a journey based on a specific application and then find out what is the right approach for a specific application to be modernized. It could be just a rehost or re-platform immediately. And then on a long run, you can consider refactoring. But these are some of those options that are available for you to choose for a .NET application. Now, let's quickly move on, and then I'll have my colleague come in and talk about some of those modernization tools and how you can really start doing your containers with a demo. So Abdel, I would request you to take it from here.
Thank you, Jegadesh. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Abdel AbouFariss. I'm with PeopleTech, solution architect. I've been in IT for about 20 years, and that gives you a good idea how old I am. For the last 6 years, though, I've been involved quite a lot, heavily with the cloud, mainly AWS. I helped a few clients, major companies such as McDonald's Corporation, Blue Cross, Blue Shield in Iowa, Johnson Control. Basically, I was part of the team to help them go through the migration journey from on-prem to the cloud. And one of the areas I've been focusing quite a lot is automation and modernization as well. These services that I really back then when I was before cloud was a cloud, I did not have the privilege of to work with the cloud and the services that they provide today. So I take that really, I put a lot of emphasis on automation modernization to help the client and make sure that we provide them with using the best services that AWS can offer in order to make their application seamlessly working well in the cloud and ready to be promoted in the market. As you know, cloud is empower us with a lot of great services to build infrastructure in no time, but we have the choice. We have the choice as engineers whether we can use the cloud manually, because a lot of services can be done manually, or we can use leverage the automation and use that instead. So I prefer to use automation because, like I said, the services that we have today, we didn't have them back then. So I take a really, religiously, I do the best I can to leverage automation into deploying applications. We take advantage of that technology that offers by the AWS. As far as automation is concerned, we use a CI/CD pipeline to automate deployment and product and make it available in the market. Modernization tools and services. What does it mean? It's really a lot of people say, well, I have an application running on-prem today. What can you do for me to make that particular application? What's the benefits? Okay, the benefits are quite a lot. For instance, if I take if I take a car that's a 1965 Chevy, a classic car, right? Everything is manual, right? And with with today, if I have a more modern car, like let's see if I have a BMW, which is surrounded with high-tech gadgets, from dashboard to the engine, and it is safe to say that I'm driving a modern today. Reason is because I see a lot of benefits of driving a modern car. First, if I get stuck in the middle of nowhere, the modern car, it gives me an opportunity to drive for another 40, 50 minutes, 4 miles, in order to maybe hopefully I can find a gas station. If I get an accident, we have airbags that can help protect ourselves. I mean, the benefits on and on. I can go on and on a list. It's somewhat similar when I can take the benefits from driving a classic car versus having an application that sits on an on-prem. You lack a lot of great services if you keep it there on the prem. First, HA. You don't have the opportunity to make the application high availability. You don't have a way of making the application like a deployment using CI/CD pipeline. If a failover using a failover technology, you are very limited. Whereas I can have the same application on the cloud, I can have it working, running 24/7 regardless. If let's say for AZ and one availability zone goes down for a reason, I can point it to a second AZ. So my application is running at the end of the day, almost no downtime. So these are really great benefits of the cloud that provided us. The other thing is the application today are we have to break down the monolith, kind of break it, decouple the application, so be able to take pieces and maintain pieces rather than having one package, and which gets very challenging. Like for instance, if I'm using one of the ERP systems like Oracle or SAP, it gets very, very challenging to maintain the application because it's all one and one package. It gets very challenging. So having application on the cloud, it reduces costs. That's one thing is very crucial as well. You can build security around the application. You can integrate tightly with DevOps. Folks at DevOps can work together and collectively in a way that makes the deployment seamlessly. Speaking of modernization, AWS provide us with some great tools and services to make that happen. So that's one of the things that I'm saying. Traditionally, I wouldn't be able to do that. Today, cloud is great, but unless we take advantage of those technology, we're not taking full advantage of it. So, for instance, the demo, which I'm gonna go over in a few minutes, we have this service called App to Container, another service called App Runner. So basically, these services enable us to take a traditional legacy application and put it into container. You can put customize a Docker container, and you can put it into even other services such as EKS. I mean, the options, the list we have is enormous, and it's up to us to take advantage of that. The services. The other advantages, it makes use the agile agility. You develop and deploy fast. The architect as far as the achieving business goals. The other benefits, it's build and operate utilizing proven ecosystem for the cloud native tooling. Portability, it's portable and it scales well. As far as deployment is concerned. And then from operation, it's very efficient. It reduces IT operational overhead and achieve optimized compute infrastructure once the application is on the cloud. So if you could basically thank you. So basically just to summarize what in that slide. So we have the service it's apt container that we can use to leverage and help us to deploy our existing cards or legacy application seamlessly to the cloud using containers, the service such as ECS. Next slide, please. So here, what I'd like to do is basically what myself I talked about and what Jegadesh described. We're gonna put that into a quick demo to show you how we can take a legacy application from on-prem to AWS in a matter of 30 minutes. It's very, I mean, when I saw that first time, I was very impressed of what AWS has offered in terms of taking legacy application and migrate it to the cloud in no time. So if I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
So basically, the service is just it's a quick way to containerize the .NET and Java application and push them to ECS and to the cloud. It's really cool what it does, and I was really when I saw actually I was in the middle of the migration. It creates the cloud formation stack, and behind the scene, it generates the Dockerfile, basically all the configuration as far as putting together the container. It does all that. I didn't have to touch the source code of the application, nor any other code. I didn't write any cloud formation code. Absolutely, almost nothing. I just run few commands from the workshop and did some configuration, and I was able to get it up and running. So basically, the goal of this POC, I'm not going to go over because I had to spin up an EC2 instance. I had to configure a few things to install the Docker engine. I had to install AWS tools for Windows PowerShell, IIS, and also I installed I downloaded the app, the old legacy application, which I'll show you in a minute. So all that, it's not something I'm going to go over, but I'm going to go over the application, the migration process, how I got it to basically from point A to point B, as if we are going to migrate old legacy application from on-prem to the cloud. Okay, it's called Nope Commerce. So I just cloned this application on the server and installed it there. And actually, here is the application live. It's called nopecommerce.com. So this is the application we're gonna use for this POC. Okay, so to recap, basically I used App to Container hands-on workshop from AWS and basically follow the directions here. The first thing I had to do is to clone the legacy application. It's called Nope Commerce on the server, so we had to do that. And to do that, it's as simple as taking the source code from GitHub, and I did the clone, which actually, let me show you. I have a command I did right here. So created directory, and I cd to the directory, and I did the clone, the git clone of the to Nope Commerce, and I'm gonna change the directory to where the binary are. And I did a git checkout to get the release, the latest release, and that basically all I had to do to install the application on the server locally. Remember, this is on the server where we have not deployed the application to AWS yet. And the next step on the workshop, I had to create a website in local IIS and then deploy the NOP application to local IIS on the server. All this, there was some work involved. So first I had to spin up an EC2 instance, a Windows EC2 instance. I had to download IIS, configure it, make sure the application is can come up locally. This is basically as if I am on a data center. So I took an image of my application data center on AWS EC2, and then from there I'm gonna upload it to ECS, to a container, to be able to migrate the application as if I am migrating the application from on-prem to AWS via app to container. Actually, let me show you the application is it is up and running because I had to configure that locally. Let me show you how I did that. So I am back to the server. This is actually my server. If you can see that, actually right there. This is my server right there on AWS. I'm just going to go to my browser here, and hopefully this will come up because if I did everything properly, configure IIS, and I had to download some tools, AWS tools, and all that good stuff, which I show you later. But let's see if the website will come up. Actually, the application. There we go. So as you can see here, it says NOP Commerce installation. This is similar to WordPress, right? The first thing you see here is you get this a dashboard. You have to provide the user ID for the actually database should be here right there. SQL connection. So you provide the SQL username, password, and admin account as well. And you hit install, and it's basically installs everything automatically for you. I'm not going through that because that's not the purpose of this POC. We're not gonna get the whole e-commerce website up and running. But the purpose is how we can migrate a legacy application such as this one to AWS through ECS or ETS. I mean, there are two options to do that, which I'll show you later. But I'm going to use ECS in this workshop. Okay. So far so good. This is actually it's good that we have the application up and running. So we can just go follow the next steps, which now we're going to do the deploy non-commerce. We did this already. I say we did this. I will go over it, but to save some time, I'm not going to go through the back end, what I've done on the server level. I'm just going to go through the process, the migration process, the app, to get it migrated to AWS. That's the goal of this POC. So now we're going to initialize the app to container. So let's do that. I am back on my server. This is PowerShell. This is Windows Server. Before we run initialize the application, I'd like to do some checking to make sure my configuration is done properly. So I usually do the pre-installation, installation, and post-installation. It's good to do an insanity check to validate the whole deployment from end to end while we're doing the installation. So first thing I would like to do is to run get package. Here we go. And there are a couple. No, there are too many packages. Most of these are tools from AWS tools, but the ones that I'm looking for should be here somewhere, right here. The Docker, I had to install the Docker provider, package management, and PowerShell Git. So this is good. So these are the tools that I was looking for. Now, come on, clear screen here. Now let's do another check. Now I'm gonna see if I can get my modules installed. So if I do install module, here we go. Same thing here. There are quite a few AWS tools. Here we go. So we have AWS tools installer, the Docker, the Docker for MS provider, the package management, and PowerShell Git. And the rest of these are AWS tools for a lot of services. If we're going to be using some of these services like Macy's and what else? I mean, it's basically every single service that you can think of. Here we go. We have EBS, EC2, ECR. So if we are going to be using these services, then they're already installed and they're ready for us. Okay. So now let's move to next step. Oh, I need to do one more check. Let's see. So if I do Docker run IT hello world, I should get a message that everything is cool. There we go. This message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. The Docker took the following steps: Docker clients, the daemon. I mean, this is basically, I want to make sure the Docker installation was done properly. So this is good. Now let's move on to the next step. Let me clear the screen, and now I'm gonna run app to container init. So what is app to container init? Init stands for initializing. So we're configuring app to container. So that's where we have to tell it where we're gonna upload the artifacts, which account we're going to deploy the application to, right? We can have multiple accounts, like a Baptist, we have multiple accounts. So we have to specify which account is going to be deployed to. And you will see I'm going to be prompt to enter some values for each question that I'm going to be prompt to. So let's do that. Okay, so first thing says workspace directories. It creates this. This is what I have the. No, this is not what I have the application installed. It was a different directory, but this is just a staging area. So I'm just going to use what the default here. It says AWS profile configure AWS configure default. So I'm going to use default because I've already done this. Okay, S3 buckets. So I did actually create the S3 bucket, so let me show you. Okay, so I am back to my AWS account. As you can see, here's my name. This is my personal account. And here we go. You see this is the only instance that's running, that's app to container Windows 219. This is the only app, the only EC2 that's running. Everything is stopped, so I don't need to, most of the stuff I do here, that's POC anyway. So my instance is up and running. So I'm going to go and just create another tab and go to S3. So to show you the bucket I already created, it should be there. I'm going to grab that right here. I called it app to container bucket. And I'm going to grab bucket name and put it right there, app to container bucket. There we go. Report use metrics to AWS user. Well, this is a POC, so I don't need to do that. I'm just going to say no. Okay, upload logs, generate artifacts and crashes. That's fine. We can do yes. I mean, some of the stuff, it's not that important because it's POC. Require image like this one, Docker can't trust DCT. I don't even know what that means. It would be good for production. I would say yes if it was production, but this is the POC. I'm just going to say no. And that should be it. The app container init is done. Okay, one more item I forgot to mention. I set up here AWS Config Profile. I chose default. The reason I chose default because I already did the configuration up front. Let me show you here. I created an IAM account, a user, and I provided the key and the secret key. I had to hide my secret key so nobody can mess with my account, but I will destroy everything anyway. But anyway, I already set this up front, so I'm telling it to use US East 1, right? So this is my profile, and that's how this will configure when we say AWS Config Profile default, so it will pick this by default. It knows my account because I'm providing the key here, and it knows which region. Okay. Okay, where are we? We finished initialize after container. So now we're going to do analyze the application. Okay. Please note here. So analyze is the command is right here, right? However, we need the application ID, right? This server can have Java. However, initialize after container. So now we're going to do analyze the application. Okay. Please note here. So analyze is the command is right here, right? However, we need the application ID, right? This server can have Java, can have .NET, can have any type of application, right? But we're looking for our application, the NOP e-commerce website that we try to migrate, but we don't know which app ID it has. App to container, it will append a unique ID to it. We don't know what it is, so in order to get that, we have to run this command. Okay. This command does a couple things. Let me just paste it and I'll describe exactly what's going to happen. Okay, so basically, running app to container inventory not only is going to provide us with the application ID, but it will check every application on the server, whether it's ASP, Java, .NET, whatever application type. It will generate reports and give us the application name along with ID, which is what we need. The other thing that does, it's really another cool feature of the container. It helps you, it does actually provide some suggestion as to whether your application is compatible to be hosted on AWS, which I found really cool because it's great to get an idea before we go through all this effort of migrating the application. Next thing, it will not work, right? So it's good to get an idea upfront. If it's not compatible, here is why, and whether that application needs to be a total rewrite or whatever the case may be. But it's good to have. So let me go ahead and run this inventory. What's going on here? There we go. It's taking its sweet time. Okay. So please notice here, this is a default web application. That's a default whatever it is, I did not install it, but I know I installed this one, not eCommerce or no commerce, right? And notice here, I have an ID, a unique ID, same thing with this one. It has a unique ID attached to it. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. So in order to run the next step, we need the ID of my application so we can use it later. So I'm gonna just put my ID there. And I already, I have a next, see, as you can see here, this is the command I copied from the doc, right? So I am gonna take my application ID and get rid of this value and replace it with that. Now we can do the analyze, right? We're doing the analyze right here. Not sure if you can see that. Let's see if I can get the font bigger, but it's okay. We're gonna paste it in anyway. So let's go back here. And okay. So you saw what I just did. So we need to run this analyze command, but in order to run the analyze command, we need to know the application name as well as the ID. So I got this ID from here because I run the inventory. Okay, now let's go ahead and run this command. Why this thing is, there we go. Sometimes I have to keep clicking. I don't know. So it is running. I'm going to pause my video because this might take a few minutes. Okay, so analysis has been performed successfully, as we can see here, for this application, our no commerce application. And notice here, it says, edit the application analysis file as needed. This is a really good option. It gives us an opportunity to do some modification to the file based on our requirement if needed. So in other words, let's grab the file and see exactly what they are talking about. And just drop it here. Hopefully it will open. There we go. So I have Studio open here. So the first thing I see here, you have the option to use your own base image if you need to. You can put your own Docker image, which is right here. Right now it's using default. So if you have a customized Docker image, you can use that. Otherwise, we can use the default. And also, it gives you option to where you want to put the image. No, this is the image name, repository name. I thought I saw where actually base image, this is repository name, tag. No, so maybe somewhere I saw that somewhere else. But anyway, you have the option to use your own Docker image, or we can use default, and you can change the name. And also you can add ports, as you can see here, files, and you can change basically. Let's see if I can scroll here down. So you have the option to change it based on your requirements. If not, you can just use keep things as a default. It's just I thought this is a really nice option to have. Okay, next step. We're almost done. We have 2 steps to go. I think it's step 10. That's going to take some time, but let's do. We just finished analyze. Now let's do the transform. And transform is application container, containerize application, and application ID. So this basically what's going to do, it's going to download the base image, the Windows core image, and it will create a Docker file as well. So let's grab this code here. And let's put it here for now. What is my notes? There we go. So let's put it here for now. There it is. Oh, notice something here. This is nice. They're even telling us to run the next command. This is the same command that I just got from the documentation, right? So if I take this command and do a copy, drop it right next to the one that I just copied from the doc, they are exactly the same. That's nice. They even gave us the application ID, so we don't have to keep copy and pasting the right app ID, so that this will make sure we're running the right app ID here. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. Let me start fresh screen. There we go. And paste it here. App to container, containerize, application ID, looks good. Let's do it. Okay, so I'm not sure how long this is going to take. I'm just going to pause my video right now. Notice here it says containerizing application, our application, then no comma, so it's doing all the containerization behind the scene for us. So we don't have to do anything. As a matter of fact, I haven't done any code change, nothing at all. I'm just running the migration process. So I did not touch the application at all. Okay, the process is done. Containerization successful. And notice here, Docker prerequisite check succeeded. Docker generated under this path here. Extracted the container artifacts for the application and generated Docker file, which is this folder. So it did all the Docker work for us without doing anything manually, which is nice. So here it says, please use Docker image to view generated container image. So let's do that. Docker image or images. Okay. So here is my app of commerce. It's about 7, it's almost 8 gig. It's fairly large. And here is the Windows Server Core, which is about 7.3 gig. So everything is good. So we have the application has been containerized, and then the next step is to deploy it to ECS, or I should say to AWS via ECS. Okay, so our application has been containerized. The Docker image has been generated for our application, and let's see. It says here, this is where we have to specify whether we're going to use ECS or we're going to use EKS. We can use either or. You cannot use both. That's obvious, right? So let's go to this file and grab this deployment. So we need to check this deployment, because before we run, I think there's a last command to have to run, which is the deployment. But the deployment command is going to use this file, this deployment.json file, because that's where it shows whether we're going to be using ECS versus EKS. So if I go here I'll have the option to choose ECS versus EKS. Okay, notice here, let me collapse these two. You see this section, it says ECS parameters, and here it says EKS parameters. If I expand on ECS, notice here, it says create ECS artifacts true, right? So this means we're going to deploy using ECS. If I collapse the ECS and open EKS parameters section, and I see false for EKS, okay, which makes sense. So we are again, this file is it's editable. You can change it per your requirements. You choose which service you want to use, whether it's ECS, EKS. Since I have this already set to true, I'm just going to leave things as is. I have my application ID there. Everything looks good. The stack name, that's already, it should be already on my account. We can check later, but the deployment is ready. And since this is set to true, it's going to use ECS. Okay, one more item that I forgot to mention is the Dockerfile. We all know Dockerfile is a very important file. Let me go to the artifacts. Okay, so I am in the application. Now let me just show you how I got there. So I am in user administration, app data, local, app to container. I go to my application, go to artifacts, and here's a Dockerfile. Let's open it and see what's in there. Let's just use Notepad. I'm not sure, this is too small. But anyway, a lot of stuff here. Notice here, it's using the Windows Server Core image. Okay, this is default. I mentioned in my prior slides that we have the option in one of the JSON file to change this default to our own custom Docker image if we want to. So we do have an option. The rest here, a lot of Windows stuff. I am not a Windows guy. Oops, I just lost it. But the cool part here, you have full control of the Docker file. You can change things around as you see fit. Whatever. I mean, most of these features are commented out, and all you have to do is see what's a good fit for the requirement. You can uncomment whatever the feature you need, or you can add more to it. But you have full control of the Docker file. So this is what I wanted to just kind of go over quickly before I go to the next step. Our application has been containerized and it's ready to be deployed to ECS. So let's go back to our menu here and start where we left off. Number 9 is done. The transformation is done. Now we're going to go to deploy. Okay. This is where the magic happens. Basically, the deployment is going to use all the configuration we did in our prior steps and deploy our application accordingly. So let's take this command and run it. Well, we need to change the ID, right? So let's do that. Okay, let's clear my screen and run this job. I think we are ready. Let's see. Okay, the process has started. Docker prerequisite check successful or succeeded. create ECR. So I'm going to pause. Actually, I'd like to add one more item here. So what I found out from reading the documentation, this process, it creates a new VPC where the application will reside, okay, which is fine. However, what if we decide to use our own existing VPC, right? I mean, we already have the account, the foundation already laid out. We already have our own existing VPC. So it has to be a way to deploy this application to one of our existing VPC. That question is answered by this tag. Actually, let me go back here. So I don't interrupt my command there. I hate to start all over. This took a little bit, close to 4 or 5 hours to do the whole thing from ground up. But anyway, take a look at this command, please. I have app to container generate, okay, app deployment, the tag deploy, right? And then our application, and we provide the application ID. This is the critical tag right here. If I remove this tag, actually let me do this. I'll keep my notes. I could have run this command without the -- deploy. And what this gonna do, it's gonna build the artifacts. You're gonna build the CloudFormation stack. Everything that we need to in order to perform the deployment, it will be ready on the CloudFormation stack, and it will not be deployed. Okay, so what does that mean? That means we can manually go to that the template, the CloudFormation template, where the VPC there is a creation of that VPC in one of those templates. We can change it from creating a VPC to providing a VPC ID that already exists. If we have a VPC, let's say we're deploying this to dev, so we'll grab VPC ID, the dev VPC ID, and use that in the CloudFormation template. Okay, so basically somebody has to be knowledgeable about CloudFormation. That's something that it's an option we have, and you can change the stack based on our requirements. So that question I had, and I had to answer it myself, because after I ran this yesterday, I noticed that it created a VPC. I'm like, wow, this is good, but not quite good, because I wanted to have an option to be able to provision these resources into an existing VPC. So again, removing this dash deploy will do just that. It will create all the VPC stack for, the CloudFormation stack for you, and you can change things around, and then you can deploy it. So, all right, so I'm going to pause here for a second, because this is going to take a few minutes. It could take almost 30 minutes last time, I think. So I'm going to pause here. Okay, our application deployment to ECS has been done successfully. Take a look here. We have a URL that was provided to us. This is actually for the load balancer endpoint. This is where we can test, why I can't copy paste here. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to take this endpoint here, the load balancer endpoint, and if this brings up the application, then we call it a victory. Okay, so let's drop it right there. Let's pray. Come on. You can do it. I need helpline. Never mind. This is good. This is good. This is really good. Okay. What we have here, our application has been deployed to ECS, and we are, as you can see here, we are browsing our application from ECS. This is on AWS, on ECS. It has been deployed successfully, and as you can see through the whole process, I did not touch a code or anything else for that matter. Even the deployment, it was just a command that was provided to me, and the app container it built all the necessary modules as far as the Docker, the container, all the containerization process. It was done for us during this process. This is really cool. So let's go back and see what we got here. It says AWS prerequisite check succeeded. Docker prerequisite check succeeded. Created ECR repository, which is, it did create one in, actually, I can show you, if I go back to my account. I am, this is ECS. Let's see if I go back. Here's ECR. What did they do? Go back to ECR repository. Here's my, let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. Okay, ECR repositories, here's my application. Okay, so now let's go back, see what else the deployment did. Push the Docker image to ECR, we just saw that. Registered ECS task definition with ECS. Let's go back to my account. Let's go back to ECS. There is ECS. Okay. Here is my application. Okay. Task definition. There it is. Active as the application. Okay. Looks good. Let's go back and see what else we have here. Registered ECS, we saw that. Uploaded CloudFormation resources to S3 bucket. Okay, let's do that. Let's go see where the S3 bucket is. There it is. There's my Amazon S3 bucket. Here's my bucket right there. I called it app2 container. If I go there and just drill down, we should see some files here. There we go. Everything is there. So ECS, as you can see, ECS load balancer, ECS master, the private app, a lot of good stuff. Everything has been saved. All the configuration is saved on S3 bucket. Let's see what else we have here. Upload CloudFormation. Okay, we just saw that. Generate CloudFormation master template. Okay, let's go back to my account and let's look for Let's go back to CloudFormation. I know this is my EC2. There it is. CloudFormation stack. No commerce ECS, app stack, A2C. It's all. This is always generated for us. If I just go click here and see what else we have inside. If I go back to resources, there we go. I see ECS custom resource role. ECS, let's see what else it did here. It looks like a load balancer. So it looks good. Let's go to the next one. Resources, cluster, EC2 instance, EC2 role, ECS auto scaling. This is very nice. So it did all this for us. We didn't write a code, not even a code to deploy this stuff. You know, it was everything was done for us. What else? What else? I think that's about it. That's the main thing that I wanted to see is not only the configuration and we have a successful deployment, but I am able to run my app via ECS. It's on ECS as we speak, and I just showed you the deployment on my account. One last item. This is the deployment is just so you know, the deployment is only for the application. The database is done separately, and the database is not done through app to container. We don't need to do that. The database can be migrated through this service called what is I forgot. It's migration a service. I forgot the exact name. Let me look it up. Here we go. I found it. It's called DMS, Database Migration Service. Actually, I've used this service before, and it's a really great service. It automates a lot of tedious work for you. I mean, you point it to a source, you point to a destination, and DMS it builds an EC2 instance in the middle. It does all the transformation, and it pushes it to a target. It's really cool, and it does this pretty much once you set it up, the migration is done for you. So this app here, this is a SQL server name. I mean, the connection, all the endpoints, all that. In order for this to work properly, so we have to spin up an RDS database. Could be MySQL, could be Aurora MySQL, could be any database engine, right? And then before we do the install here, so we have to point this application to the right database. But that's another conversation. I just want to point that out that during this deployment, we only deploy the application. Database is done separately. That's basically sums it up. Basically, that's everything that I needed to cover as far as deploying old legacy application to AWS, and it's doable and it's going to be done. So that should do it. If you have any questions, if folks want to know what I did on the server level, please reach out. I can walk you through that process as well. Thank you.
Perfect. So App2 Container is, it's a really good, it's a very cool tool which can help you to containerize your legacy applications within no time, and can help you to host it on AWS cloud, either on ECS or EKS. And tools like App to Container can be one of the reasons, right, why you want to modernize with AWS. But it might not be alone, or it might not be enough, right, reason. So, and I can give you many other reasons to justify why to modernize with AWS. But probably the most important and the key reason is the innovation, right? As you know, AWS was the first major cloud provider to offer Windows Server in 2008. That is 4 years before Azure. And since then, we launched 275 instance types with 200 different armies for Windows, so that our customer can choose the one which fits best for their business needs. Last year alone, we launched around 69 new features for Windows workloads. And you can see AWS is innovating at an unprecedented rate. So to us, innovation is the major factor for modernization. Further, what we have noticed is that modernization conversations are becoming mainstream. And with these challenging times, customers, they have to innovate, to serve their customers. And as a result, the executive level modernization conversations, they have gone up by at least 23%. And the modernization conversations, they have transcended, from the management level to the executive level. And increasing, a modernization, adoption leads to, increasing economic value. From our customers' data, we typically see at least 20% savings in the unit cost of CPU cycle with just a lift and shift migration to cloud infrastructure. And as our customers, as they continue to optimize their cloud instances through right sizing, license optimization, and selecting the base pricing model for their users' behavior, they typically see another 10 to 20% savings. And finally, by adopting higher level of modernization approaches and services, our customers they experience further cost savings, which may with many seeing savings as high as 60% by taking advantage of AWS cloud native services. And these savings they can be redirected or reinvested into driving more innovation and value adding activities. And on this slide you can see there are many logos, many customers representing some of our key customers who have successfully modernized with AWS. And we are seeing an increasing number of customers moving from Windows and modernizing their applications on open source software or AWS cloud native technologies. And these customers are across wide range of industries and geographies. They have all chosen a variety of different pathways to modernize their Windows workload, but they have one thing in common, right? They have achieved their business outcomes by modernizing with AWS. So let me dive into specific customer stories for database modernization as well as application modernization. So let's look at some of the database modernization stories. Some of our customers they chose to move from SQL Server and other commercial databases to AWS RDS like Kaplan and Instacart. They get a level of control and standardization with an out-of-the-box API-based, fully managed production-ready database that is secure as well as scalable. And they are able to reduce the time needed on day-to-day maintenance, so that their engineers they can focus on real value-add activities like building and improving their applications for better customer experience. Customer like Intuit, who migrated from SQL Server to Amazon Redshift, to reduce, data processing timelines and get better, fast insights to, to their customers and decision makers. Other customers like Dow Jones and Verizon, they move from SQL Server to Amazon Aurora, and end up reducing their processing times, significantly with a higher performance at a fraction of the cost, right? By saving, SQL Server licensing cost. And as you can see, many of our customers, they have chosen variety of different ways to modernize their database workload, or I would say SQL Server, workloads with a great business outcomes. So finally, let's look at some of the application modernization stories. Here we have a really good success stories from our ISV segment like Fileforce and AgriDigital. Both of these customers, they chose to modernize their .NET framework, legacy applications by refactoring them using .NET Core, and move away from Windows to Linux. Seedgate, they decided to use Microsoft .NET Core and C#, and in addition to Linux and Postgre, to create industry shifting integration platform that connects suppliers and sellers. Other customer culture team, they decided to go for AWS a cloud development kit, a CDK, to fully automate and provisioning of AWS Fargate services with supporting databases and user roles in in a repeatable fashion. Another customer, Fileforce, they reduced their licensing cost by as high as 30% by modernizing with .NET Core and Linux, and getting rid of Windows. And they started delivering new software features in within weeks instead of a quarterly basis by fully automating most of their code deployments. And finally, AgriDigital, their .NET architecture was a monolith, not to build, to scale, and it was needed, a modernization. So to achieve their expansion goal, and they modernized their technology platform similarly by using .NET Core, Amazon Aurora, and they started running their workloads at least 50% faster on AWS, which is leading to a better experience for their customer and other supply chain customer using their applications. So you can see, the whole modernization efforts, they pay, for itself. In the long run, it will help you not only to build, applications which are highly performant, but, it will also help you to do, a cost optimization. So if you are looking for modernizing your technology platform, please feel free to reach out to our consulting partner, PeopleTech. They have some, cool offers for you to, accelerate your modernization efforts. Over to you, Jegadesh.
Excellent. Thanks, Jegadesh. I'm going to just share my screen real quick, and then we look at what we have in terms of call to action. And then, sorry guys, we couldn't do the demo, but as a backup, we do have the demo recorded. So we are going to share the recordings with you guys, but let me just quickly bring up my screen. You should see my slide. Here we go. So in terms of quick call to action, definitely we would encourage you guys to revisit your .NET application and identify one of the first application that you can start containerizing. So these are some of those. The app to container is an excellent tool. We have done that with several customers, and it does modernize applications quickly in terms of putting them to containers and then bringing the containers up. You can really do this in a day, but I would really recommend you choose one application and then run through the app to container tool, and we can definitely share some of those documentation with you guys as well, and then start considering containerizing your applications first. Now, to get this process going much faster, what we have done is we have put together a specific PeopleTech Cloud Accelerator program, So if you're just kind of getting started, what we would recommend is start with something called OLA, which is Optimization and License Assessment. So this is an assessment program which could help you understand what are your licensing cost implications when you move to containers, and what you need to do in terms of right-sizing your VMs on the cloud, right-sizing resources on the cloud. That's something which would definitely come as an outcome of this tool. So if you're just starting in terms of your migration journey, we would recommend you start with the OLA program. The second one is the workshop that we could offer to containerize one of your applications. So this is our AWS experts working with your technical team to containerize one of the application. So that's a program that we offer for people who have joined this call. And if you are just getting started, if AWS is something new for your team, we can definitely help your team to run through an immersion day, which is basically an workshop that we work. It's hands down the technical workshop that we can deliver for your team and show them exactly how AWS services could help them in their modernization journey. And we also got a specific track, which is a Windows workload migration track, where we show them how you can migrate your Windows workload. So these are the areas where we could really help you to get started. And of course, all these three programs that I'm talking right now is offered to you as an incentive for joining this webinar. So these are no cost to the customer, but this will definitely enable you to get started and accelerate your migration journey fairly quick. The last option that we do have is for people who are already in the process of migrating to cloud. We can definitely take advantage of certain funding programs that AWS has put together. One of the programs is MAP, which is a Migration Accelerator Program, and we also have a program called WMP, which is a Windows Migration Program. We can talk a little bit more in detail if you guys are interested on that, but that's a program which will definitely help you accelerate your migration journey to cloud. So with that said, I really wanted to see where we are in terms of time and probably give a couple of minutes for the question and answer session. Nancy, I just want to cover a couple of.
So we only have a few minutes, but I did want to open it up to the questions that were sent in and answer some of those questions before we end the session. If there are questions that we don't get to, please do feel free to email me directly. I'll be sharing out the presentation, the link to the recording, and then answering any questions and setting up additional sessions as needed. But one of the questions, Jegadesh, was, since modernization can be time consuming, what is the best approach to modernize existing systems without completely refactoring it?
Well, that's an excellent question. In fact, as we told before, the migration or the modernization journey could be very different for you and for your application. So one of the things that we would recommend is to look at containers real quick. Well, let's split this, right? So when you talk about modernization, you can also talk about modernizing your application and the infrastructure, underlying infrastructure. One of the quick wins that you can do is leverage tools like app to container and containerize it. So basically, you're not going through doing a lot of code refactoring and rewriting your code, but you're kind of modernizing your underlying infrastructure. And once you have things on the containers, then it's easy for you to go ahead and go through and completely refactor them. So think of this as a journey and then take one step at a time and then move through up the value chain and then completely modernize your application. But I would say containers is a way to start and then look at converting .NET to .NET Core.
Okay, and then there's just a couple more questions. So is there a benefit to converting .NET Framework applications to .NET Core?
Well, I'll probably take that question as well. I think there are several benefits that you would take advantage when you move from .NET to .NET Core. And one of the key benefits is when you move to .NET Core, you're really not platform dependent. You can really go through and run your applications on even a Linux platform. You're basically removing all your dependencies on the platform itself. So that's something which is significant. We see several customers take advantage of this because they really don't want to be dependent on the platform itself. and .NET Core gives you that flexibility, and it's going to help you move across platforms. And that's the way to go if you're looking at a modernization and running things on a long run. That's the way to go. The second reason why you should consider moving things to .NET Core is, if you look at all Microsoft roadmaps, the investment all goes onto .NET Core, right? So .NET Core is where you will get all your latest libraries and functions you can take advantage of. So definitely .NET Core is the way to go.
I want to add something there, Jegadesh. There is one more advantage, and that is when you move from .NET Framework to .NET Core, and when you move from Windows Server to Linux, basically, you are saving, cost, licensing cost. You don't need to pay for, Windows Server licensing. Also, now SQL Server you can run on Linux. So if your application is using, SQL Server, you can also move from SQL Server Windows to SQL Server Linux probably, and you can consolidate, your operating system. Now everything you have it, on Linux.
Yes, that's a very good one, Jegadesh, and that's definitely covered as well. And that's one of the primary reasons customers move, to get the cost benefit. And that's actually part of the OLA program that I was talking about. So that would kind of split up what are the cost savings that you would get when you modernize your application. That's a good one.
There's one more question. I know we are pressed for time, but is there anything like app to container in other cloud providers?
Okay, we're talking about other cloud providers?
That is correct. That question is there anything like app to container in other cloud providers?
Well, not that I'm aware of, but this is something which we can definitely get back to you. I have seen certain tools which are not as sophisticated as app to container, but Jegadesh, do you want to take that?
I haven't heard, from any other cloud provider. And again, I'm not in fully touch with, each and every cloud provider, but what I can say is app to container is one of the best I have seen, right? Out of all the tools we offer at AWS, app to container is one of my favorite tools. When first time I saw, the demo where, it can help you to migrate and containerize your legacy application within no time, right? And we are not talking about days or weeks. We are talking about, a couple of hours. It was a jaw dropping for me. It can seriously accelerate, your modernization efforts. So, try it out.
So Jegadesh mentioned earlier, we do have a recording of the demo. I'll be sharing it shortly after we end. So I do appreciate and thank you everyone for staying 10 minutes after. Hope you found it useful, and we look forward to connecting afterwards. Thank you, Jegadesh, Abdel, for the time that you spent sharing .NET application modernization.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you everyone for staying back to
Thank you everyone.